So, good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining this session. This session is very important because you have taken the admission for regulatory affairs. Some people have taken for regulatory affairs formulation, some have taken for the global regulatory affairs. So, I thought to discuss about what is it all about, what is regulatory affairs, what are the different regulatory bodies, and how our India is progressing and where we stand, currently as a Indian pharmaceutical industry. So all the contents are gathered from the internet and the source is acknowledged. So this is a brief agenda. What is RA? What is the role of RA professional? Why RA people are required in the industry? What is regulation? What is the difference between law and regulation? What is guidance document? How do I find current guidance document? What is the submission? And different regulatory bodies like US FDA, Europe Health Canada, Japan, UK MHRA, Asian ICH, and the current scenario about Indian pharmaceutical industry. So that's for today's discussion, and I hope these topics are very interesting to all of you. So let us discuss what is RA. RA is a regulatory affairs. So it's a profession within a health industry, namely pharmaceutical, medical device, biological, functional food, and so on. That means regulatory affairs are the people who are not considered only in pharma. Regulatory affairs people are hired in any area. Nowadays, if you see, medical device is also booming sector, nutraceutical is booming sector, then even chemicals, fertilizers. So wherever you go, there are huge opportunity for the regulatory affair professional, and that's the reason you are here to learn with Raj GPRSC all the aspects of regulatory affairs and what these professionals are like doing in the industry, in the different industry, if they are hired as a regulatory affair professional. So this profession is developed from the desire of governments to protect public health, right, by controlling the safety and efficacy of products in areas including pharma, veterinary, medicinal product, medical devices, pesticide, agrochemicals, cosmetics, and complementary medicine. Then RA profession is at its heart all about collecting, analyzing, communicating, and communicating the risk and benefit of the healthcare product to regulatory agencies and public all over the world. This third para is very very important whenever you will be asked during your interview or during your group discussion that what is RA, what is regulatory affairs. In that time your answer should be regulatory affairs is collecting, analyzing, and communicating risk and benefits of healthcare or the pharmaceutical product to different agencies all over the world. Why I say all over the world? Because this world is comprising of regulated market and the semi-regulated market. There are more than 257 countries in this world, and this globe is divided into regulated market and semi-regulated market. So whenever we talk about regulated market, that means it has highly regulatory system. The laws, rules, regulations are very stringent, and we have to follow it strictly. When we talk about semi-regulated, means there is some kind of liberty, is given. But nowadays, if you see, all the countries are moving towards the regulation, so they would like to follow all the rules and regulations made by all regulated countries like US, Europe, Japan. So in old days, we used to say that US, Europe, Japan, Canada, all these are the major countries which falls under the regulated market, and ICH, that is International Council on Harmonization of for making all the guidance harmonization in case of medicine and veterinary and other areas, they came together and formed a body, tripartite organization. ICH is a tripartite organization formed by US, Europe, and Japan, and they have written such a beautiful guidance under the subject of quality, safety, efficacy, and multidisciplinary. So just remember that any health authority, its main objective is to protect public health. And to protect public health, we have to meet those three parameters, that is quality, safety, and efficacy. Without these three parameters, we cannot move forward, we cannot register our product, we cannot get marketing approval from any of the country. Once we prove that our product is of good quality, it is safe for human use, and it is efficacious, then only you get the marketing approval. And that's the role performed by the regulatory affairs professional, because they are the people who collect the documents from different stakeholders like R&D, production, in R&D also analytical department, formulation department. Then in production, they collect the stability data, batch manufacturing record, batch packaging record. Then they are dealing with the QA department. All approved documents are received from the QA department, or COAs, that is certificate of analysis, the specification, and everything is received from the QA department. QC, the analytical report and the analytical data, the raw data is received from the QC department. Then comes to purchase and other department, wherein purchase department help us to bring all the vendors document like DMF or packaging material specification, raw material specifications. So all RA people, professional are dealing with all different stakeholders in a company. So those are the stakeholders who are performing their duty in a different role. Like QC does his role of regular the routine analysis of the sample. Then QA perform his duty for ensuring the quality throughout the production and maintain the life cycle of the product. Then coming back to R&D, R&D is again divided into analytical research and the formulation. So analytical people help in development of the analytical methods, then validation of analytical method. Then formulation people, they help in development of formulation, different types of formulation, whether it is liquid, solidorous, capsules, parenterals, and they take small pilot batches, and then they take the commercialized batches, that is scale up. So the regulatory people always, in a, I would say it is a central department who helps in developing all the document, the dossier as per country specific requirement, then submit to health authority, negotiate with health authority, get the marketing approval. So their role is like not only collecting, analyzing, and communicating risk and benefit to the health authority. Post that also the role continues, because once we get the marketing approval, then also we have to maintain that product years and years. So we have to maintain the life cycle of the product. So RA as a profession is broader than the registration of products. They advises companies both strategically and technically at the highest level. So their role begins right from the development of a product to making, marketing, and post-marketing. As I said, we maintain the life cycle management. So the RA professional role is not only specific to the registration and getting marketing approval, but they help companies strategically right from the beginning, right from the development of the product till making, marketing, and post marketing. And they advise us all stages, right? In terms of legal and the technical requirement. Suppose if today we are following some ICH Q2 to validate the method, tomorrow the ICH Q2 R1, R2, R3, some edition comes, the updation comes. So regulatory people have to keep an eye on updated guidelines, and they have to advise their people, their stakeholder, that look, now this data will not be applicable. We have to make the additional requirement as per the updated guidance. So regulatory people are always helpful in case of legal and the technical requirement as per the current country specific requirement, because there are lots of changes happening, lots of guidances are coming up, lots of rules are changing. So we have to keep ourselves updated, and we help always, the major contribution is what the company's success, both commercially and scientifically. Am I right? Both commercially and scientifically, because we have to justify in front of health authorities with respect to the quality, efficacy, and safety. And that is why we always have to see that how the dossier is compiled together, how all the data is brought together and filed in the format of CTD, eCTD, or eCTD as per the country specific requirement. CTD is a common technical document, eCTD is an electronic common technical document, ACTD is the Asian Common Technical Document. So, as per the country specific requirement, we have to compile the dossier, submit to the health authority, and get the marketing approval. So, the main role is to comply with safety and efficacy of the product as per the regulation laid down by the government. So, in an organization, their prime responsibilities involves preparation and presentation of registration documents to regulatory agencies and carry out all following discussion to obtain and maintain marketing authorization for the product concerned. And they need to keep a track of ever-changing legislation in all countries where the companies is looking to market their product. And also they are responsible for the presentation of registration document to regulatory agencies in India and importing countries and carry out all the subsequent negotiations necessary to obtain and maintain marketing authorization for the products concerned in country of origin as well as importing countries. Now here, suppose if company XYZ is manufacturing in India, but they would like to register their product in US FDA, Europe, and later on, maybe in ROW countries. So, regulatory people have to know about the country specific rules and regulations, country specific format, and the ever changing legislation as per those countries. So, suppose if you are in India, the India would be the country of origin, and now you are going to export to China or Russia or US or Europe. Then you have to learn those country specific requirement, and you have to bring all the data together, compile in a format, and make the nice presentation, good justification out of it, because any health authority would not like to give a marketing approval unless and until you justify your product with respect to benefit versus risk. What does it mean, benefit versus risk? Our product, which are manufactured and registered, should have more benefit to the patient rather than the risk. So each health authorities, again, I'm telling you, the main objective is to protect public health. So in protection of public health, we have to meet those three parameters and we have to learn all the country specific requirement so that we help our organization in getting marketing approval as faster as possible. And why RA is required? So by now you must have understood the importance of RA people in the organization, because any company has taken several years to develop a new drug, because new drug takes long time, right? They have to undergo through different phases, right, from the non-clinical to clinical. So under non-clinical, they go for the animal toxicity data, pharmacological data. They spend couple of years and spend money also. Then they move towards the clinical phases. Again, clinical phases comprises of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. So like that we have to spend almost 10, 12, sometimes 15 years to develop a new drug. So many years and so much money if it is involved, then why not any company would like to enter and register and get the marketing approval? So there is a huge competition in the pharma sector, because the time taken by the product to reach market is high when you talk about the new drug development. But when you talk about the generic, it takes two and a half years, again depending on the molecule and depending on the therapeutic category for which you are developing your drug, the generic drug. So again, the companies responsible for the discovery, testing, manufacture, marketing of those products also want to ensure that they supply products that are safe and make worthwhile contribution to the public health and welfare. Most companies, whether they are major multinational pharmaceutical companies or small companies, Innovative biotechnology companies have special departments of regulatory affair professional. So on an average, as I said, 10, 15 to 20 years takes for the new drug development, and almost more than 800 to 1000 million dollar is the expenses incurred during the drug development. And with such an expensive and time consuming activity, companies would not like to stay behind, right? They would not like to afford a single day delay in getting their product to the market. So RA professional plays a very important role in getting those products to the market. But sometimes what happen, if you compile improper data, if you are unable to justify your product, if the reviewer to whom you are sending the dossier is unable to draw some justification or evaluation in, then it will affect your marketing authorization, and it may delay your approval. So I hope you understood the RA professional roles and why RAs are required, and what is the RA's main function, roles, responsibilities in the pharmaceutical industry. Not only pharmaceutical, other industry as well. And this is a short presentation about the RA career. So those who are willing to make career in RA, this is a career ladder you have to follow. Again, it depends on the hierarchy is always depends on the company structure. If you are hired in a small company, you will be hired as an officer, or the intern or something like that. So during first 3 years, you can be hired as an officer, intern, and you become an executive. Then after 3+ year, you may be promoted to executive, senior executive, or sometimes depending on your good performance, you may reach up to assistant manager level as well. And after 5 years, 5+year, you become a manager to senior manager. 10+year DGM, GM to HOD. 15+year associate director, director, vice president, and president. So this is a general RA career ladder. And again, I'm telling you, it depends on purely on your performance and the company who is going to hire you. So this is not the fixed ladder which I have presented over here. So you have to take this as an example. Those who are fresher, those who are at mid level, how the career would be for them. Then these are the important skills and the attributes required for making a good RA, professional. So first skill is influence IT literate. What does it mean? Now in this digital world, everyone should be aware of how to Google, how to use internet, how to use country specific website, how to use the data, how to find out literature. So you should have sufficient IT literate. So this is the most important skill which any RA professional would like to have. Then negotiate work independently. Sometimes what happens, if your boss or your seniors are away from their duty and you are alone and you have submitted your dossier, or you are stuck up in compilation of your dossier or data, you're dealing with different stakeholders. Suppose sometimes what happens, the production guys are not willing to give production record immediately. Sometimes the stability data is not ready. Sometimes R&D guys are stuck up with the validation data. So in that case, you need not to dependent on your seniors or take help from others, because you have to work independently. You have to learn work independently. This is very important skill required by RA professional. Then pursued accuracy, quality, communicate articulately, listen actively, interpret and consolidate data. These are very, very important skills which one should have to become a good RA professional. So, pursued accuracy means what? Whatever data gathered, whatever compilation is done, it has to be thoroughly checked. You have to check whether the data provided by production or QC guy is accurate or not. Sometimes we have to use your calculator, we have to use our logic. Some data like dissolution, percentage of dissolution received, you have to literally calculate what was the you know the in the calculation, the peak area, the sample area divided by standard area into sample weight divided by standard weight into if any working factor is there. So literally you have to check whether the data provided was accurate or not, because you are the person who is going to submit this data with and share this data with health authority. And once it is wrong, then you will be caught during the inspection. So please verify whatever data coming to you for the compilation. It has to be verified, it has to be justified. Then present quality. Present quality means you have to present the quality document, quality records, and everywhere quality is must. Am I right? So you are dealing with different stakeholders, and that is why quality plays an important role. Then communicate articulately. So articulation is very important. The effective communication is very important. Why I'm telling you effective communication is required? Because you are not only dealing with the your internal stakeholder, you are dealing with the external stakeholders, like sometimes vendor, external vendors, then regulatory bodies, notified body. So the communication should be in a proper sense. Whatever you are communicating should be effective. Whatever you are communicating should be taken it in a positive manner, in a well manner. So you have to learn those skills, how effectively you can communicate. Sometimes what happens, if you are dealing with your internal stakeholder like QC, production, R&D, they become adamant, when you talk in a language, rude language. Yes, I have a deadline and I need data right away. If you are not able to give, I will report to you through the higher management. So this is not the way to talk to our colleagues, our internal department. So you should learn how to speak to them, how to get the work done, how to get the work done amicably. So this communication skill, the people management skill plays an important role when you are into RA department. Then listen actively. Sometimes people are, not able to listen other person. Why? Because they have poor listening skills. So when somebody is telling about their story or their problem, what they are facing, the challenges. I will quote one example. Like I used to work in industry for 20 years. So we have faced all these challenges while dealing with different people, different production department. So, when the deadline was there to submit my ANDA, and during the deadline, there was hardly 2 days left, and the stability, accelerated 6 month stability data was not given by the production department. And I was just forcing them to, why don't you provide after 2 days, I have a deadline and I have to submit this ANDA. And the person was telling, Madam, the one of the stability chamber was not, under proper condition, and it was stopped in between. So we have lodged the complaint, and the person from the vendor, the Neutronic, is not come, and we are waiting. So the results may go haywire. We have to analyze, the reanalyze. We have to ensure the data or the results coming out of that was perfect or not. And he was right in his own way to explain. But from other end, we used to sit in the HO head office, and the person, people working in the production. So we were behind, getting the deadlines. Like we were afraid of missing the deadlines, and they were afraid of getting data, wrongly and presented to the health authority. So in such cases, you should have some patience. You should have understanding. You should have a good listening capability, and this will really, really helpful in a long term. So listen to each person actively, try to understand their problem, try to introspect yourself, and try to look into their position. All these skills, I would suggest, if you are able to imbibe in yourself, you become a very good RA professional. Then the last is interpretation of data and consolidation of data. So suppose a data is coming from the QC or the QA department, the COA is released. In the COA, I have seen that water factor like WF, which is analyzed by Carl Fisher, I have seen that 0 month it was 3%, 6 month result it is 6%. Now I have to really interpret the why there is a 3% rise in the data within 3 months. Am I right? If starting analysis shows the result of 3% of water content, then within 3 months it has gone to 6%. So I had to literally check what was the acceptance criteria, what was the limit given. Suppose the limit is 3 to 6%, and within that limit, if it comes, but still within that limit, within 6 months, if there is a rise in water content from 3% to 6%, in future it might not be acceptable to any health authority. So we have to suggest to our development team that there is some issues. Either you have to change some excipient who is contributing that water factor, either you have to change the packaging material which is not good enough to take care of our product, or stability incubator you change, or first thing is reanalyze those sample and check whether the data is accurate. So like that you should have that ability to interpret and then consolidate your data and submit to the health authority. So, my dear student, these are the very important skills when you really want to become a regulatory affair professional. Now, coming to what is a regulation. So, regulation is a binding instruction issued by an agency that tells how to interpret and comply with a law. So law, when it comes, it has become mandatory, right? So regulation is a binding instructions issued by an agency. Agency could be your US FDA, Europe, Canada, right? So regulations are must follow. If you fail to follow, what will happen? You have an inspection. The FDA inspector must write up your failure on the FDA form 483, which is referred to as notice of inspectional observation. So all the regulation, all the laws have to be followed strictly. If you fail to follow, you are going to inspect your facility by USFDA inspector or any other inspector, and you are going to receive inspectional observation. In USFDA, it is called Form 483, and in other terms, the minor, major, critical observation is given by respective health authority. So failures to follow the regulation may end up in the issued warning letter. You must have seen in on the FDA side, lots of warning letters are issued by companies who are not able to follow the laws, regulation, and there are the data integrity issues or any other issues. They are not following any compliance validation as per the regulation laid down. So this FDA website will publish the name of the company if they are failure. So you can see there are thousands of letters published as a warning letter, the 483 letters on US FDA website, and that is not a good place to be. Any company would not like to see their name on the FDA website as a warning letter. So please keep in mind that you have to follow the regulations because it is a binding instruction issued by an agency. So, what is the difference between the laws and regulation? So, they come from the different branches of government and have different functions. So, laws come from the legislative bodies like Congress and set policy in broad term, whereas regulations comes from the executive branch and provide details on how the laws are to be implemented or how the laws are to be obeyed. So, this is simple example which will make the difference, which will give an idea about the differences between laws and regulation. Laws means the Federal Food and Drug Cosmetic Act. In India, we follow Drugs and Cosmetic Act 1940. So that comes under laws. When we talk about regulation, you might have heard about 21 CFR Part 11 compliance system. So regulation means Code of Federal Regulation, that is CFR. So there are several parts under this CFR, like Part 21 of CFR for food and drugs. So if you go through this link, you will come to know that how the difference in between laws and regulation. But with this example, I'm pretty sure you understood the differences between laws and regulation. Now come to the guidance document. What is the difference between laws and regulation we have seen? Now come to guidance document. So you have seen many ICH guidelines under the quality, safety, efficacy, and multidisciplinary. I always ask to people whether those guidances are mandatory to follow. Ideally, no. We are not bound to follow, right? So guidances are the document that represent agencies thinking, current thinking on a particular subject, but it is not binding. That means you should read it to determine what the agency's view on a subject is or was at that particular time, right? So guidances are not mandatory, but those guidances are written in such a beautiful way that if you do not follow those guidances, also there will be a trouble, and you won't understand what are the general practices followed in the industry. And that's the reason, ICH has written very beautiful guidelines and published on their website called ich.org.com. So if you refer to FDA guidelines, if you under the CDER, and you can refer to ICH guidelines under ich.org.com, you will come to know, and always try to refer to the current guidance, because the guidances are published every 3 months to 6 months, and it is kept for the public review. If suppose the draft guidances are published, you can give your comments, you can review those and add your comments. So always FDA or ICH body wait for the industry comments, and they keep their guidances for review for 3 to 6 months so that it is publicly accepted. And when it is accepted, then only it is finalized. So you have to always see to that what are the newly added guidances documents, and those should be referred to. Then coming to what is the meaning of submission. So submission, you in RA department, you will always hear this term, today is my submission, next week is my submission deadline. But what is it? Submission is, the ultimate product created by a regulated department, and they also in the terms of content, format, and quality, which represent your company and your product. What is meaning of content? Content is very, very important, which you bring together by dealing with different stakeholders. The format, whether it is CTD, ECTD, ACTD, as per country specific, and the quality, how you represent the dossier. So I hope you understood the meaning of submission is an ultimate product created by regulated department with respect to content, format, and the quality, which again represent your company and your product. So regulatory submissions are complex document in every sense, from an editorial, scientific, and the paper management perspective. At the same time, this document represents the ideal opportunity for a regulatory professional to shine not just in quality of the final product, but in the way the document is brought together. So in a department, if you have different people with different team handling US submission, Europe submission, ROW submission. So in a team of 10 people, the person who brings all the documents together, just able to justify in a proper way, do not make any mistake. The dot comma error mistake is also to be looked into, because when you go for publishing under ECTD, there will be a publishing failure. So you have to make your document of very good quality with respect to content, format, and other aspects, so that you get an opportunity to shine in your department. So suppose within a team of 10 people, if your product is registered and get the faster approval without any deficiencies or minor deficiency, that means you have taken a huge efforts to bring all together data, you have analyzed thoroughly, interpreted nicely, and you have justified your product with respect to quality, safety, and efficacy. And that's the reason FDA or any health authority has given marketing approval as faster as possible. So that becomes your the that gives an idea of your performance. So you did your job well, you perform well, you are, you will be uh, uh, like getting promotion, you will be promoted in future. So that's how you have to imbibe all those quality within ourselves. So now taking forward to different regulatory bodies. As I said, this globe is divided into regulated market, semi-regulated market. So regulated bodies generally are, US, Europe, Japan, Health Canada, and UMHRA, and there are a couple of others. And our India, the local domestic market and the international market. So there are two markets, as I said, regulated or the semi-regulated. Some people call it as local or the domestic, and some people call it as international or import-export market. So local domestic means when we compile dossier and register getting marketing approval within India, it is our domestic market, local market. So registration of new product in our own country, that is India, for selling to the local market. And our Indian Health Authority is what? DCGI and the CDSO. If you see the DCGI, the Drug General Controller of India, you will find many guidances are published, and we follow the Indian Drugs and Cosmetic Act 1940 and the Rule 1945. So this is about India. In future lecture, we are going to cover each country, separately. Now there are USFDA. So what is USFDA? You know, Food and Drug Administration. It is a public health agency charged with protecting American consumers from taking adulterated drugs and medicine. Then there is EMA, that is European Health Authority, and it has four different procedure called decentralized procedure, then centralized procedure, national procedure, and the MRP, that is mutually recognized procedure. So when we talk about European regulatory bodies, we will discuss all the regulatory system involved into Europe. Then there is Health Canada. Health Canada is again a federal department responsible for helping Canadians maintain and improve their health while respecting individual choices and the circumstances. The Health Canada's goal is the mission and vision is Health Canada's goal is for Canada to be among the countries with the healthiest people in the world. So any country, as I said, any agencies would love to protect their health, protect public health, I mean to say. So if they are not able to protect public health like us, we are public, we are patient, then what's the, point in having health authority? So as I said, there are a couple of health authorities falls under regulated and semi-regulated market like Japan, MHLW, Australia, Australian TGA, South Africa, MCC, UK, MHRA, WHO, Brazil. So these are the different health authorities which we are going to cover in future. CI is Russia, India CDSCO, China is CFDA, it's not SFDA because SFDA is under GCC area. Now they have changed to, sorry for this mistake, it is ideally it is CFDA, Chinese FDA, and SFDA is for the GCC. GCC is what? The Saudi Arabian country, the Gulf Corporation. So ASEAN is again a Southeast Asian nation which has 10 different countries like Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Brunei, Darussalam, and Myanmar. And those are following ACTD, that is Asian Common Technical Dossier. Then there is ROW, that is rest of the world. So as I said, this globe is divided into regulated and semi-regulated market. So these are different countries falls under different segment, and also there is ROW, that means rest of the world. Now, I'm pretty sure that you understood the concept of regulatory affairs, roles and responsibilities, and how we compile the dossier, what are the skills required by a regulatory professional. We have seen different regulatory bodies. Now move forward with how this India progressing, what is our Indian pharmaceutical industry, just an overview. So we have 80 years of history in India because Bengal Chemicals was formed in 1930, and we have Patent Act since 1970, right? And there are lots of amendment after that in 2005. And you might have heard about intellectual property, right? Our IPR. So, with this history, just see there is, there are more than 200 manufacturing unit in our India who has, US FDA approval. There are so many thousands of companies who have WHO approval. So, with this, you can see there are infrastructure, the state-of-the-art facilities located in Hyderabad, then Ahmedabad, then in Mumbai also, the Panvel, Taloja area, in Thane. Then you move towards the south, you can see Vizag, Visakhapatnam, Andhra Pradesh. All these are developing segment, and we have beautiful manufacturing unit, whereas all the corporate offices are into the metro cities like Mumbai, Chennai, Hyderabad, Kolkata, and so on. So these are our strength. We have qualified English speaking employees, then we have fair protection of intellectual property rights, then we have skilled scientists and technicians and management personnel available in India and at the affordable cost. And that's why many people outsource the services from India. Like you might have heard about the BPO, KPO. BPO is a business process outsourcing. KPO means the knowledge process outsourcing. So these are the companies like TCS, Accenture, Deloitte, then Capgemini, then Pharmalink. So there are so many companies who has a business process outsourcing. That means they outsource the services like pharmacovigilance, regulatory publishing, medical writing, then CDM, that is clinical data management. Then there are a couple of other roles like document specialist, publisher, or these also services are hired by outsourced by these companies, and there is a huge opportunity for the regulatory people to work in this area. So, in a nutshell, what I mean to say, in Indian pharmaceutical industry, there is lots of opportunity because of the economical cost and with the good quality and the better infrastructure, and we have a better track record. In our advanced chemistry, we have good R&D center, we have good bulk drug manufacturers, formulation manufacturer. So we are the largest player to provide generic products all over the globe. So if you see worldwide, we have captured, the revenue of worldwide pharmaceutical market is 1 trillion. This statistic depicts that worldwide revenue of the pharmaceutical market from 2001 to 2014. But in 2001, worldwide revenue was around 390 billion US dollar, and now 10 years later, this figure has stood almost 1 trillion US dollar. So it's a big change. Don't you see big change? So that's how our Indian pharmaceutical industry, and it is growing at the rate of CAGR of 17.46%. Just see the figure, like US $6 billion in 2005, and it's expected to expand at CAGR of 15.92% in by 2020. So by 2020, India is likely to be among the top three pharmaceutical market by incremental growth and sixth largest market globally in absolute size. So India's cost of production is significantly lower than that of the US and almost half of that of the Europe. And that's why many people invest in India, because they get a good quality of manpower, good quality of supplier, good quality of infrastructure, everything, and we give a competitive price, not with respect to manpower, but with respect to the quality which we offer to all over globe. We are a manufacturing and export hub. So Indian pharmaceutical is the third largest in the world in terms of volume, accounting for 10% of world's production. Total export of about $18 billion in 2015 to 16. Now we export, more than 200 countries. India is the world leader in the production of generic drugs and vaccines. You might have heard about during this COVID also, lots of people are manufacturing vaccine from India. You might have heard about many things like Biocon, then Serum Institute of India, then Hafkin. There are so many, people went into manufacturing of vaccines. Our BCG vaccine is also useful. So every third dose of vaccine administered anywhere in the world comes from an Indian manufacturing facility. So that's the beauty of India. So, guys, you have a bright future in India, and please try to learn more things, imbibe the good skills to become a good RA professional. This is just a drug development value chain. This will be discussed in our next lecture about drug development and right from the discovery, how the drug is brought into market, how we are following, going through the different phases, like right from the drug R&D till the clinical trials. In between, there is a preclinical, that is the animal studies, then phase one, phase two, phase three, and then it goes for the submission. So this will be discussed in detail when we take the next topic under drug development and others. So this is the R&D development process. It follows from drug selection, pre-formulation, then development optimization. Then we go for bio studies, technology transfer, exhibit that is exhibit batch, then registration batch, then stability, pivotal biostudy, then regulatory and enter into market. So this is the normal procedure which we follow from research development till entry into market launch. And that's all about the regulatory affairs and the pharmaceutical in India. And I hope it is understood in a well manner. Thank you for your attention. Now the session is